Hello, Isabelle.
Yes.
How do I pronounce the second name?
Oh, my last name, Dupuy?
Yeah.
Dupuy.
Dupuy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 9:03. Maybe we should start now.
Okay, let's start. Okay, Yeshua, everybody's in.
Okay.
Hi, Patricia, I just sent you a note. Does everybody else have the password? Because I don't know, if it wasn't in my invite.
It's 007.
Right, I'm in now, obviously, but to all the.
Okay, we're recording, Michael. I will send it out.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Yeshua, why don't we start?
Okay. We've started recording.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm sure everybody can hear me. Welcome to this very rare webinar titled Doing Business with the United Nations. I'd like to welcome everybody that's logged in here today for this webinar. Interestingly, we have people on this webinar that registered for this webinar from Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Madagascar, Namibia. This is truly an all-African webinar. And we also have people who are logged in that registered from the United States, Canada, UK. And so this is truly a global and all-African webinar. So we welcome everybody that's logged in right now. We are excited you could make it, and we hope that you will learn some fantastic lessons from this webinar today. On this webinar right now, we have a few of our key resource persons and some of our colleagues from WEConnect International. As you are aware, this webinar is hosted by WEConnect International in collaboration with the United Nations. We have Jeannie Murphy, who's who leads the Enabling and Outreach Services team at the Office of Supply Chain Management with the United Nations. On this webinar, we have Mika. Hello, Mika, can you hear me?
Sure.
We have Mika Kitagami. I got that right. I got Kitagami on this call, on this webinar right now. Mika is the Chief Vendor Registration and Outreach, is the Chief of the Vendor Registration and Outreach Section, Enabling and Outreach Service of the Office of Supply Chain Management in the Department of Operational Support in the United Nations. We also have Isabelle Dupuy. I hope I got that correctly, Isabelle?
Yes, you did. Very good, Yeshua.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who is also the procurement officer at the United Nations Procurement Division, Office of Supply Chain Management. Also on this, so I would like to welcome resource persons from United Nations. Thank you for taking out the time to be on this webinar. We have my regional director, Patricia, for Middle East and Africa, the cutie over there. And she's on this call to this webinar to provide us some support and guidance. And we also have Michael Tobolsky from our HQ, who's our Vice President membership, right? Memberships. And we'll welcome you, Michael, on this call. On this webinar. We'll welcome everyone who's on this webinar right now. And we'll like to quickly get moving because we have a very tight schedule and we need to maximize this time. As we said, this is United Nations is graciously hosting this webinar in collaboration with WEConnect. and we're certain that you're going to be having a fantastic time. We're going immediately to the first presentation, which is made by Isabelle, titled UN Procurement Division Overview. With that, Isabelle, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Yeshua, and welcome everyone. We are so happy to have you all from these different locations in the world. It's one of the first ones that we are doing like that, and we also appreciate WEConnect to help us reach out to women-owned businesses for this reason. So I'm going to explain to you how the United Nations procurement is working, and maybe we can go to the next slide, please.
Sorry, I'm trying. There we go. Can you see the next slide?
No.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So I'm seeing it. It has outline. Yeshua, do you see it?
Yeah.
Let me try again.
You can see your slide.
You're not sharing your screen anymore. We only see the video. We 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 see the video.
Can you see my video? I mean, can you see my slide?
Yes, hi, your slide is back up. It shows that it need to enable editing.
I can also see you.
So I can see a slide that says outline. Can you see that, Isabelle?
No, I only see overview.
Okay. You may want to show your own screen. I don't know why it's not working. I'm sorry.
Yes, I can see the slide.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Everyone is seeing my screen.
We can see your screen. Thank you, Isabelle.
Okay, so if I move to the next slide. Yes. Okay, so this is the outline. You see all of you see the.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk about how is the UN system organized. And then because we are from the UN Secretariat, we will talk to you about the area of operation. Then we will go to the Procurement Division itself within the Secretariat. Then we will talk about the volumes and the stats. Then the principles, procurement principles are very important. A typical UN procurement workflow. And then how to do the business with the UN. For the Q&A, I invite you to put your questions into the chat box, and then we will get those questions. Yeshua, because I'm not seeing those questions anymore. I don't know why. Maybe you can just give me a hint when you see a question. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So this is the UN system. It's a little bit complex to grasp. Basically, the Secretariat is the part in yellow. but we also serve the Economic and Social Council, which are the economical commissions. We have also on this slide, can everybody put on mute, please? Sorry. We also have on this slide the funds and programs like UNDP, the development program. We have UNICEF, WFP. I guess those ring a bell to you. I'm going to move to the areas that the UN Procurement Division is servicing. And is anyone able to mute everyone but me? Or? Okay, so this is the HQ here in New York, and then we have operations in what we call. Can everybody put on mute, please? Thank you. Okay, so these are the peacekeeping operations in red. So, for example, the main ones are in Mali, in Democratic Republic of Congo. We also have Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia. So we have also economic and social commissions and what we call offices away from headquarters. So we have Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. And for the economical commissions, we have Bangkok, Addis Ababa. We also have tribunals. So as you can see, we are operating almost all over the world. So the procurement volume of the whole UN system accounts for $18 billion per year, approximately, half of which will be services and half of which will be goods. So as you can see from the slide also, it's constantly growing. The UN procurement volume, the UN Procurement Division volume is accounting for, can you put on mute? Infinity Hot 5, yeah, about $3 billion per year. What are the main commodities that we bought in 2019? So the main one is air transport, because we are bringing in and carrying back the peacekeeping soldiers, you know, the blue helmets that are the ones that are having this mandate that to provide, you know, the UN mandate in the UN missions, in the UN peacekeeping missions. So air transport, but air transport also includes freight. Then we have IT, which is also a big spending. Fuel. Actually, if I may, I'm in charge of the fuel procurement, so this is my part of on the slide that is my daily job. Then we have food and catering, because okay, so sorry. So I think I'm on, everybody can hear me now. Okay, sorry. So we have food because we are bringing these blue helmet peacekeepers food ration when they are deployed in the field. Building and construction, because we are, of course, accommodating those people as well as the UN staff. So we have campgrounds with camps. Travel, real estate, meaning leases mainly, transport and storage. So that would be part of the freight as well, for the large goods. Security, the camps are secured, so we have a lot of security items here, vehicles, and then the rest is less important, but financial and insurance, of course, we have to have banking systems in place. Okay, so the top 5 African countries with whom we are doing business are Kenya, because one of our offices, one of our main offices is in Nairobi. Ethiopia, because it's also servicing Somalia, and we have a large deployment there. Sudan, because they are providing, for example, fuel for the region. South Africa is also a large provider, although we don't have a peacekeeping operation there, but they are very active in Africa to provide goods and services. And then Mali, and I told you we have a large mission in Mali. So what are the UN principles that are the framework for the procurement? One is the objectives and the needs of the UN organization. So we cannot buy outside our mandate. So we buy only when we have requisitioners asking us what it is that they need. Fairness, integrity, and transparency. This is very, very important for us. So fairness means that we treat everyone equally. So we really, post all the information equally to all. We share all the information also, and that's the transparency part, sorry, on our website. So if you're more interested in that, you can look onto our website and find all the contracts that have been placed in the past years. And integrity is one of the big pillars, of course. We don't accept any bribe, or we have a zero tolerance policy. Effective international competition means that even here in the US, when we request a service, we will ask companies from all over the world if they can provide this service. It's the same everywhere where we operate. And best value for money is a more complex principle, but basically it means that we take into consideration the cost, but also the quality, the technical features, and we make an aggregation of a technical score and a financial score. So these principles cover all the stages of the procurement, from the sourcing, which is how to find vendors that can meet these requirements, up to the execution of the contract once it is signed after the procurement solicitation exercise has taken place. What is a typical workflow for the procurement? So we first have to plan, and in order to avoid overlap of procurement exercises, we are doing this exercise of planning across all the missions. So let's say, for example, they need vehicles next year, and we have a large solicitation for vehicles that will come up. We will aggregate all those needs into one solicitation that will go out for all the missions. So planning is really important. Sometimes the requisitioner will come with a requirement that we already bought, or we already have a system contract, and therefore we will not make a solicitation for this requirement. That's why planning is also very important. Then the technical side, the requisitioners will...
I really want to listen to what she's saying at this point, and I'm the only one here to be saying I can't hear.
There's some, yeah, thank you. So the requirement definition has to be very generic. So we don't accept brands unless there is some kind of standardization. But apart from that, we would really try to open up to the vendors the capacity to provide an answer to a need. So then we do the market research. So one of the main components of this market research is an expression of interest. So we will talk to you a bit more about that after, because I think this is where you can see how and when we are interested in putting up a solicitation. We also go through other entities. We have this UNGM platform that Mika will talk to you about, which is super important in order to find the correct vendors. We also partner with people like WEConnect, for example, to be able to find also women-owned businesses. Then we select what we call the procurement strategy. So what is the vehicle that we want to choose, whether it is an intention to bid that would be based on a lower score, or a request for proposal, which would be this best value for money, an aggregation of a technical and a financial score. Then we prepare the documents and we send them out. The first step when you receive the solicitation is to see if there is a bidders conference that you can attend. And more often now we are doing virtual bidders conference, unless it's really a site critical requirement, like for example construction, or that needs you to be on site. Apart from that, most of the time what we are doing are virtual conferences, and for that I really also invite you to attend, because you can see more information from that point. And there you have also the Q&A that will give you more insights. Then you send us the proposal, we receive, we open, we evaluate them, the technical and the commercial separately. We do an internal review of the finding of the evaluation. We go for our internal approval committees. Then we award the contract. Then we send the regret letters. And then another important point for you is the debrief. So you can ask for this debrief within a certain time frame after you receive the letter, the regret letter, if you have not been selected. And also the debrief is a good way for you to get insight on what are the weaknesses and the strength of your proposals in order to do better the next time. So really 3 main components here. First, on the market research, if you are in the UNGM, if you are on the UNGM platform registered, then you can receive those expression of interest. That is the start point for us to see you. Then go to the bidders conference once you have been invited, so you can get more information. And the last one, if you haven't succeeded, be patient, because it requires a lot of effort, but ask for the debrief so you can understand better the strengths and the weaknesses of your proposal. Okay, so this is exactly how you can do business. So the entry point is your registration into UNGM, the UN Global Marketplace that Mika will talk to you about in a few minutes. Identify which are the organizations that you are able to serve. So you have to click on those and select them, and check what are the requirements that you can provide by selecting the commodity codes that are also a good way for us to filter the vendors. There is also a mobile app for the UN Procurement Division. We encourage you to look into the Global Compact. Global Compact is very important because it gives the principles that we think the companies that serve the UN should follow. For example, no child labor, no sexual harassment. This is very important. It's really the principles that we want the companies to abide to. Then you can get more information about what are the procurement challenges, specifically when when you have a deep field delivery. And then what are the FAQ? So on the registration, UNGM stands for, again, United Nations Global Marketplace. It's a global vendor portal. It's accessible from all over the UN system. So all the agencies, funds and programs, as well as the Secretariat, everybody that I showed you on that first slide on the UN system have access to UNGM. So it's really a great platform for you to be present. Registration is mandatory for all commercial vendors, so we cannot see you unless you have registered, which is very important, of course. Then you can introduce your products and services to different organizations, as I mentioned, in different countries, in different regions. Only by completing that form, they will be able to see you and reach out for you. You then will be able to see those upcoming tender notice that we call the expression of interest I told you about. And by that, you have to subscribe to what we call a tender alert system that will provide you with all the business opportunities in these categories that you have selected. So for more information about the UN system, organizations, and their requirements, there are three main platforms. One is the Knowledge Center in the UNGM. So once you're logged in with your UNGM number, you have this Knowledge Center that is accessible. You can also have download the annual statistical report of the UN, which is something that we do with UNOPS, and where we aggregate all the procurement from all over the organization. And then we also have what we call the UN Procurement Practitioners Handbook, and that gives you more tips and highlights on our policies, on the way we do business, and I think they are also on the risks. This is very interesting. The mobile app will help you connect in real time with us, and you will see the events. So for example, these business opportunities, the seminars, the public tender openings for the bids, the UNHQ holidays, the contracts on a monthly basis are updated there, so you can see them by year, by commodity, and see who are the vendors actually that won one of the solicitation that you have participated to. We have bulletins on different topics. We have different functionalities, you know, in the multi-year statistical report. That's also very interesting. So the Global Compact, I told you a little bit before, but there are 10 principles. Two are related to the human rights. So basically respect the human rights within the business, and don't be complicit with any abuse. The second is about labor. So we have 4 principles under labor. So they should be a freedom of association, elimination of forced or compulsory labor, of course, effective abolition of child labor, elimination of discrimination in employment and occupation. The third large bulk of principle is about environment. So we have 3 principles there. So number 7 on the slide, if you follow me, you should be precautious when dealing with environment. So try to minimize your, you know, your pollution impact and your footprint on your in your business. Promote environmental responsibility and encourage development and diffusion of environmentally friendly technologies. And the last one, very important for us as procurement, is anti-corruption. So any any, for example, staff that will deal with you under the contract once it's awarded, will have to abide to this zero tolerance policy. Means that we will accept no gift whatsoever. But it also addresses this principle, anti-corruption, between you and the rest of the supply chain that you are part of. So what are the challenges of the procurement in the peacekeeping environment? So it is you know, we go and we install camps in very remote locations, but that's where the war zones, basically we are close to war zones, right? So we have little or no infrastructure, so we have to start from scratch and build a camp ourselves. And so this is a very big challenge when, for example, you expect, you know, at least things to run as normal. It is not the case in the UN peacekeeping environment. So we have limited resources. You could be exposed to disease, natural disaster, emergency. The volatility of the situation is also a big risk, and of course security. So when we ask you to provide a bid for those remote locations, you have to take all of this into account and make sure that you provide security to your people, for example, and that you understand the challenges. So here you can see, for example, a UN car that that is having trouble in the desert. So basically, it happens when, you know, we go to a very remote location and we have problems. So this is one of those testimonies of how difficult this can be. Or the other image is how do we load or unload vehicles. And this one was during the Ebola crisis, where we had to deploy in a very quick time frame large number of vehicles so that we could provide medical assistance during Ebola. We also have to build roads. So basically, you know, the government give us the authority to build a road so we can build the camps in remote locations. And so we are asking contractors to do that. We also have, you know, a tax, and that is something that is very critical, of course. Here we're talking about this attack in Timbuktu in Mali in 2017 that caused the death of a peacekeeper, and but sometimes it can also you know, affect other staff. So what are the frequently asked questions? So for example, I am a small vendor. Is it worthwhile for me to register? Do I have an opportunity to do business with the UN Secretariat? So the answer is yes, of course. We procure on an international basis from vendors of all sizes and from all geographical locations. So sometimes our requirements are large, and for that we require large companies and infrastructure. Sometimes they are more, you know, they are smaller. So there are different levels of registration that Mika will talk to you about. And basically, you can find your way in depending independently of the size of your providing. Another of your company. Another question is, we have a new product that we believe the UN should know about. Who should we talk to? Could you please give us name of the persons that are in charge for this product? So the contact names are through the Procurement Division. So for that, you can find us on our UN website. And we are there by commodity, so it's very easy for you to locate us. And also the UN agencies, funds and programs are available on UNGM. So this is the end of this presentation. Yeshua, have we received any questions?
Thank you very much, Isabelle. Thank you very much. Yes, we've received a few questions on the chat, via the chat function. So we'll need to move very, very fast so that we can catch up. We're a little bit behind in time. So I'll just read a few of the questions to you very quickly. We have a question from Paulina Mokothu. She asks, I am looking at the list of goods that you source, and I am not seeing textile industry. I'm wondering if you're interested in the gifts and textile industry sector. That's a question from Paulina Mokothu.
Yeah. Let me answer that quickly. So basically, UN Secretariat, we buy uniforms. So we buy the end product. Food is the same. We buy food rations. So you could be a good subcontractor to one of our providers. If, for example, you go to our website, you will find the name of those providers, and then you can contact them to try to be a subcontractor there.
Okay.
Mika, you want to add something?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Another question very quickly from Ajoke Risikat Olayuola. Do you buy agricultural commodities, grains, and other food products?
So there are some agencies, like for example, IFAD in Rome or FAO, that are more specialized in agriculture. The UN Secretariat is more specialized, as I said, in peacekeeping operations. So it won't be agricultural products, but FAO and IFAD can help you with this. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next question very quickly. From Gladys Amefule, Bellpoint Energy. She says, good day. I noticed that you do not do much in Nigeria, despite it being the most populous African country. Please, is there a reason for this?
You know, we are bidding on an international basis. So basically, if Nigerian companies are answering those bids, then we would see them. I don't know if this is very much the case. I don't have the numbers, but it's true that we can do better, and that's why we wanted to have this business seminar with you guys so that you can you know, better answer those solicitations in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Due to time constraints, we can't take all the other questions, but I can see that there is a regular question coming from everybody, which is talking about what exactly do you procure? What kind of products do you procure? Someone, Potola, is asking that she procures food items. She produces food items. Motieno says she procures contemporary art products. Somebody asked, do you need Flourish Michael Agbi asks, do you need money to register as a vendor? And I'm very sure the answer to that is no. Somebody called Rich answered Gladys' question, saying the first step to doing business is registering your company on the UNGM, that is the United Nations Global Market. So I think to wrap up this section, do you think, Isabelle, that would you advise to participants on this webinar be that the first step they should take in doing business with the United Nations is to register with the United Nations Global Market?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is the way that we would see you if you are not registered, we will not see you. So that's really the first step. And for that, I think we should hand over to Mika for the next slide, the next presentation, where she will explain to you how to register. And I will get back to you after that presentation for another presentation. Okay.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. So Mika, we're handing over to you now for your next, for the next presentation, which is on vendor registration with the United Nations.
Do you see my screen right now or no?
Don't see a screen.
How about now?
Okay, yes, it's coming up now, yes.
Okay, all right. We tried to do the full screen and it didn't work very well, so I'm gonna go with this. And presentation slides will be shared later, so sorry if you're having a hard time looking at it. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Mika Kitagami. I am Chief of Vendor Registration Outreach. It is my pleasure to speak about the vendor registration process. Topics to be covered today is as follows. Topics are as follows. UNGM and UN Procurement Portal, background and definition. What is United Nations Global Marketplace, UNGM? What information is available on UNGM? Have to register online, have to access business opportunities, and tender notices. Let me move this. Okay. And how to subscribe to tender alert service. Currently, UNGM is utilized by 29 UN agencies and organizations, such as African Development Bank, World Food Program, Food and Agriculture Organization, UN Development Program, World Health Organization, UN Secretariat, etc. And we should have 2019 data soon, in a couple months, but as you can see, those 29 agencies represent 99% of a global, pardon? 99% of global spending of over 17 billion US dollars as of December 2018. So what is the United Nations Global Marketplace everyone's talking about? It is the United Nations Procurement Portal, bringing together more than 255,000 vendors and UN procurement staff from 29 UN organizations and agencies. And as Isabelle repeatedly said to you today, registration in UNGM is mandatory for all commercial vendors for us to know who you are. Vendors can introduce their product and services to many UN organizations, countries, and regions by only completing one registration form, which I'll show you later. UNGM also enables vendors to keep abreast of upcoming tender notices. By subscribing to the tender alert service, vendor can receive relevant business opportunities that would be emailed directly to you. The vendor's profile is automatically matched with the UN organizations based on the information provided and during the registration. And this UNGM platform is used by more than 5,000 UN procurement staff as a source vendor based on UNSPSC code. The UNGM Global Marketplace site is www.ungm.org. Okay, UNGM is very easy. It's a very fast, easy, and a first step in doing business with the UN. and becoming a requirement for more UN organizations in order to participate in tenders. And registration is free and available in the following languages: English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and Portuguese. This slide shows the different requirements for you to register in UNGM. Basic level is registration is for contract award up to $40,000, which requires you to provide us with a company name, no DBAs, company's most senior official names, company type, contact information, commodity codes, and declaration of eligibility. Level 1 is contract award up to $500,000, which now asks you to provide us with a certificate of incorporation, 3 references, and additional company information. For level 2, that's contract award over $500,000. This to be able to register at the level 2, you have to provide us 3 reference letters and past 3 years of financial information. Please do note some UN agencies may require additional information, but these are the basic. And what it is you cannot go straight to level 2. You have to start with the basic level and then level 1 and level 2. But the important thing is basic level registrations is all you need to start the business, start participating in tender exercises. You don't have to be at the level 2 or level 1. Only time you have to be at those levels are when award level is over $500,000 or over $40,000. Okay, now finally, let's go to UNGM. If you go to the ungm.org site, this is the first page you will see, and see where the hand is. That's registration. You first click on that registration button. And then next, once you click on registration, you choose company. And then you go to, the system will ask you to fill in company name, country, company's most senior official name, etc. on this page. Then system continues to ask the contact information. It is important for you to add registry@ungm.org to your address book to make sure you receive all email correspondence from UNGM, to make sure this UNGM mail does not go to your junk mailbox. So this is activate your account page. Your account is not activated yet. Please check your email with the subject as UNGM account activation. Welcome to the UNGM mail. Then activate your account by clicking on the link provided in the email. That's why it's very important for you to check once you try to register your junk box, in case you haven't received anything, or in case you have received something from registry into your junk box. All right, now it's account activation. If you see this on your screen, then your account has been activated successfully. So the next step is to complete your basic registration by clicking here, the basic. This screen requests you to enter your company name, the business license number, the year your company was established, etc. The general information. And as you see, required field is marked as required field. Then the system will ask you to enter your business address information, At the same time, see here, you can start seeing how many percentage of the registration process you have completed so far. The system allows you to choose whether or not you wish to conduct business within your country only or additional countries. You can choose and list the countries where your company is able to supply goods and services. See here. The system also allows you to add more people to share the same account by inviting another user. I recommend you strongly to add at least another person in case, as oftentimes companies face that the person who initially created the account leaves the company, then they don't know what to do with the account because they don't know the information any longer. So please try to add more than one person. So declaration. This is the important part of your registration. Please read through and select an option on the bottom. Okay, another important part of the registration, that is selecting UNSPSC coding. This will show what goods and services your company can provide. You can start the search by entering a few letters as shown in the example, like a vehicle. Start typing in VEH, then you start seeing things. You can use a search functionality to search by names or code to select the products and or services your company offers. You can also use a tree search to select the most accurate codes that define your company's products and or services. Once you select, be sure to click Save Select Code. Now, the system automatically has matched your company's profile with a list of the UN organizations. You can deselect the organizations you do not wish to register with in this page by unclicking. Okay, so this last step is to click the Submit Registration to complete your registration with the UNGM. Once you're registered, you can visit Contact Awards list where types and award amounts are shown. You can also search for business opportunities by checking tender notices. Or by joining tender alert service. That is identifying relevant tender is time-consuming task for someone in your office, or deadline is often too short. This tender alert service automatically email you the alerts when relevant business opportunities are published within the annual tender alert The annual tender alert service subscription cost is $250 a year. That's about the only thing it costs money. But what you see by yourself, by going into those tender notices, and the ones you receive are the same information. By paying does not mean you get extra information. You get exactly the same information. And then, tender alert service is like this page will show you how to subscribe to the tender alert service if you like to. Contact information. I only shared a very brief basic level registration process with you today, but however, If you have any further questions and or difficulties, please contact us. For UNGM registration related questions, please contact registry@ungm.org. For vendor registration and outreach questions, please contact register@un.org. At the same time, I encourage you to check out UNGM video guidelines and FAQs as well. This Isabelle, my colleague, showing you earlier. This is additional information you can get. You can get from annual statistics to more knowledge about UNGM and UN Procurement Practitioners Hand Guide. These are all available on the UNGM site. All right. This concludes my brief presentation on the vendor registration. In order for us to improve our future presentations and future seminars, we would like to ask you to kindly participate to our client survey. Your feedback is very important to us. Therefore, please take a moment to complete the survey. Thank you. And my colleague is typing in responses to your questions as I was speaking, but please let me know if there are any other questions you'd like to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mika.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was a very, very enlightening presentation. Thank you very, very much. We already have a few questions for you right now, so I'll jump right in.
Okay.
Immediately. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Kabwe Mulolo, and Kabwe asks, "Hi, I own a global recruitment agency. How do I register as a preferred supplier on UN's database?" So this question is for Mika.
Okay. There is no preferred or non-preferred vendors. Everyone needs to go to a UNGM and register as a basic level first in order to be able to participate in tender exercise.
Okay. There's no preferred supplier. Okay, so the next question comes from Paulina Mokoti. Do you deal with registered sole proprietorship enterprises?
I need to know a little bit more about that question. If she doesn't mind, can she send us an email on that topic?
Okay, so
send it to register@un.org, please.
Okay.
register@un.org with the information
Paulina,
exactly what she'd like to ask.
Okay, so Paulina, you can send your question to that email address. The next question is from Violet Abdul Kader. If you choose only your country to start with, probably while registering, can you add more countries later?
Yes, as a UNSPAC code as well, you can add and delete as you go.
Okay. Then the next question is from Damilola Anwade. And Damilola asks, if you have already done work for one of the agencies a while back, one of the United Nations agencies a while back, will your profile automatically be here on UNGM?
If you are a registered UNGM user, yes. We don't, I mean, you as a vendor need to go in and register. I cannot see what you're registering, nor I can put you back to UNGM as a registered vendor. So you as a company need to register yourself.
Okay. And the last question from Serem Finance. And the question is, we have registered with the system. However, we find that the alerts appear when we have very little time to submit the tender. So I guess she's saying that the submission deadline is always quite close. Is there any reason for this?
That I have no idea. Isabelle, for the short deadlines, do you want to say something?
Yes, so normally, sorry, I can put my video on. Yeah. Normally what we do is for solicitations where we don't require a bidders conference, so or we can do a bidders conference virtually, and we know the requirements are rather standard. We would put 4 to 5 weeks, which is already a large time for us, because we then have, you know, as I said, the technical and the commercial evaluation, the internal approval. So altogether, the procurement process will last 4 months approximately before the contract is in place. So we tend to make it, you know, a reasonable timing for you, 4 to 5 weeks. If it's a more complex requirement, we can go up to 8 weeks. And if you have received a requirement and you think you need more time, you can always go back to us and ask us if they will, if we are able to extend the duration of the bid.
Okay, thank you very much. 2 questions just came in, and I'd like us to just touch them very, very briefly because I think they are also important. This is coming from Fumi Ogwe of Sigma Limited, one of our certified members. She's asking essentially, she's asking if OEMs are also bidding. And she's asking because she needs to understand the process where OEMs being original equipment manufacturers, are OEMs allowed to also bid on contracts on the UNGM?
Mika, if you want, I can answer.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Yes. So basically what we do is we are looking for, normally we are looking for services. So it's not just the equipment, it's also the installation, and it's also, it could be the maintenance of the system. So that requires not only the initial, the original manufacturer, but services around it. And that's why we think that franchises, you know, equipment retailers, resellers can also be a good asset.
Okay, okay, that answers the question. And the last question is if UN works with partnership companies, when 2 or more companies come together to form a partnership, is that permitted? Can they bid on the UNGM platform? How would that work?
I need to know a little bit more about the background on that, because partnership on a paper, like they're establishing new companies altogether, or they just happen to be working parts and, you know, like payments, how we're going to make payments, etc. Please provide her the email address that I gave you earlier to send it to me so I can answer, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One very interesting question. Are there vendor applications for individual agencies, or does the UNGM cover contracts from all the UN agencies? She's asking because she has done work with the UNHCR in the past.
Right.
Yes, and those jobs suddenly stopped. So she's asking, this is coming from Ebu Feludu.
Yes.
That are vendor applications for individual agencies, multiple agencies like UNDP, IFAD, those type of organizations, are they under the UNGM platform or separate?
No, we share the same platform. So like UNDP looks at it, like I was saying, Africa Development Bank, WHO, WFT, FAO, they all share the same platform.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that was our last question. Thank
Actually,
you.
Yeshua, it's Patricia,
Okay.
and
Hello,
there were
Patricia.
a few other. Hi, there were a few others that came earlier that I think might be. I'm sorry, I don't have the names of the people who asked them, but here are a few more. We had a few questions asking, like, if I'm a vendor based in Nigeria, can I be considered for a bid to provide products in Ethiopia, for example? Or if I'm based in Kenya, can I be considered for a project in Malawi or something?
Right. I mean, as one of the questions in the UNGM while you're registering, if you can provide services in other countries besides your own country, yes.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. And another question was, are your tenders on a project by project basis or for a contract term, for example, 3 years?
Isabelle?
Yes, I can answer that one. So basically what we do is we tend to buy services that are generic or that are recurring, right? So most of our contracts are for long term, like 3 years or 5 years. But it could also be that we are related to one project, and the duration of the contract will be linked to the project completion. So it could be 18 months, or that depends. But if we are buying services and goods, most of the time it's a long-term contract.
Patricia, any other question?
Sorry, yes, there was one more. What are payment terms, or does it vary by types of contract?
Yes, so payment terms are normally 30 days net, so after we receive the invoice. And that's the general term of the payments. But sometimes we also ask the vendors to provide a prompt payment discount, which means that there will be a kind of reduction up to 1% or something if we pay before the 30 days.
Great, thank you. I wanted to ask, because we're getting a lot of questions about specific products and services and whether the UN would buy them, everything from do you buy seafood, do you buy consulting services? Can you remind us, is there a web page that would have a list of everything you buy, or how can people find out what opportunities there are for themselves for specific products and services that they're selling?
On our website, as we explained to you, we have the current contracts, so you can see what we are right now buying. There's also this ASR, which is the annual statistical report for all the UN system that is accessible through UNGM. You also have the knowledge experience platform in the UNGM to use what each individual agency is buying.
Great. I will type those in the chat. We have one very important question from Mucha Malingo in Kenya. I'd be interested to know what the UN is doing to diversify their supply chain.
So what we do in order to get more vendors interested in our bids is basically we post our EOI on the UNGM. We do business seminars like this one to get more people interested in doing business with us. We also reach out to the vendors that we know can provide those services. Sometimes it's because we exchange information with other UN agencies, and they tell us, oh, we have done a bid recently, and these are the vendors that answer the bid. We also get to know vendors through some organizations like WEConnect. We also have some subscriptions ongoing with people that do data research, so they can provide us with more inclusive information. Yeah.
Great. And a follow-up to this comment by Mucha is that she's been registered on the UNGM platform for many years, and she initially subscribed for the TAS. She's not been successful in any of the bids. She says it would be beneficial to be able to get some insight into where the bids are not successful. So is there a way that you give feedback to the bidders so they can learn and
that's
get
what
better?
we talked about earlier when we talked about the debriefs. So for bids over $200,000, we are giving debriefs. So we are spending time with you, like between half hour, 45 minutes with the technical team and the commercial team that did the evaluation, and we give you your strengths and weaknesses so you can do better next time.
Thank you. Yeah, I do know that some people are coming in and out of this webinar, so thank you very much for answering those questions for us. Yeshua, I think those were sort of the main types of questions that we saw.
Yes, I think so. I think the only other question that keeps coming in is what you mentioned, which is what do you buy? What exactly do you buy? Someone asked, do you buy educational services and products? And I think it keys back to what you said, Patricia, as regards can they find one particular location where they get all the information they need as regards what UN can purchases, which I think will be available to them when they register on the UNGM platform, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
One thing I would like to add, for example, for educational services, for training, etc., we normally bid globally. Okay, so we bid internationally, and we want the company to be able to deliver in New York, in Geneva, in Nairobi, etc. But we also do the evaluation on a regional basis. So if you are a provider in one of these regions, I think what you need to do is to do exactly the same as we are doing, which is to find the big players out there and contact them to be a subcontractor for this region, so that next time that they have a bid, they can contact you and they can ask you to be a subcontractor for the region.
Great, very helpful.
Very, very helpful. I think we've wrapped up that segment. Thank you very much, Isabelle and Mika, for that fantastic section. I'm going to actually make sure that women in Nigeria register with UNGM as quickly as possible. We'll be going to the next session, but before we do that, I'd like to also quickly explain to our participants, WEConnect International is a global organization and that identifies, certifies women-owned businesses globally and connects them to opportunities. The United Nations is one of our key global partners for the work that we do to drive supply diversity and inclusion globally. And it's open to women-owned businesses around the world. Just check our website, www.weconnectinternational.org, and check register your business. And you can register. It's free to register. And there is a certified version, but there's a free version that offers you a lot of opportunities. Also, you can check out the UNGM platform, as has been explained. I've seen questions asking as regards the information. The slides will be they'll be provided after the webinar. They'll be provided, they'll be made available. So if you need more information and you'd like to register your business on the UNGM platform, you can have the information to do that quickly. The next presentation is being anchored by Isabelle. It's titled How to Answer a Tender from the United Nations. Now, I believe that every other session has been very important. This is very important because in my conversations and experience speaking to buyers of services and products, the major issue every last one of them has pointed out has been poor responses from women-owned businesses. The responses to the tenders have not been on time, have been haphazard, and I think this is one session that you need to pay attention to. Get your friends on this particular session. And with that, Isabelle, I hand over to you. And while Isabelle is speaking, please feel free to log in your, to drop your questions on the chat segment. Keep your microphones muted. And when she's through, I'm sure Mika and Isabelle will take your questions. So Isabelle, over to you. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. I cannot share my screen. You have to do something, I guess, Patricia.
Sorry about that. Let's see. I'm bringing up the slides. Just a moment, please. Thank you.
Oh, you can do it? Okay.
I think I can. Let's try. So we're going to the tender process, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. The tender process.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we see it. Can you go next slide?
Sure.
You're on mute, Patricia, and we don't see the next slide.
Yeshua, can you see the next slide? Tender process. Lots of pictures. Yeah, you're muted.
Hi, Patricia. I see the tender process on my screen.
Yeah, I can see the tender process.
And a lot of pictures.
It's called Tender Process Overview.
Just the first slide before that one.
Okay, for some reason, you guys are not, as I advance slides, you're not seeing it. Let's see.
How did you share your screen with me? How did you allow me to share my screen last time?
Just a moment. Let's see. Yeshua, do you know how you can let her share her screen? I'm just making all participants be able to share the screen. So can you share your screen now?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Perfect. So let me go to that mode. Okay. So I'm going to explain to you what is the tender process, meaning what are the different aspects that we have to take into consideration when we do a bidding exercise. So one of them are, of course, the policies, the framework, the procedures, the principles. Then one of our great aspect, as we explained to you, is that we also advertise our bids, so anyone that is interested in participating can answer. We have different methods of solicitation that I will explain, and we will go back to the solicitation process. What are the solicitation documents? How do we do evaluation, and eventually, in the end, the award? What are the contractual instruments and the dispute resolutions principles? So on the framework, so the big framework is, of course, the Charter of the United Nations that grants us, for example, privileges and immunities. So we often don't pay taxes in the country where we do business. We also have what we call our financial rules and regulation, which gather those principles that I will talk to you about. And we have the procurement manual, and the procurement manual is also online on our website, so you can see how we do the procurement is described in this manual. That is really our like Bible, something like that. So what are the principles? You remember I told you about fairness, integrity, and transparency. I told you about the interests of the United Nations. I want to go back in more details about the best value for money. So considering all factors, we need to achieve the maximum benefit, and the price is not the only determining factor. So it means that we will have a technical evaluation that will gather the all the aspects of what we call the whole life cost. So it could include the design, the production, the maintenance, the waste management, and all the end life of the products could be taken into consideration. We also take into consideration the quality, and basically what we do is we give a weight of the technical and the commercial. So the commercial will be given a weight of 40% of the total score, and the technical score will be accounting for 60% of the total score. So that way we are sure that the quality is also included in the selection and not just the price. Another thing that I mentioned to you about was this effective international competition. So we need to achieve as wide as possible the geographic distribution of the procurement. So basically right now we have contracts, valid contracts with suppliers from over 130 nations. The UN encompasses 193 nations, so it's a lot. So the advertisement, I talked to you about this expression of interest. So we do it for any solicitation above 40,000, and it is posted on our website and on UNGM. And the vendors that see this expression of interest can fill in a form that is part of this EOI, which we call the response form, the REOI. And if they are interested, then they can send back this REOI to the email address that is indicated in the EOI. We also do market research. We check the publications, the other UN agencies, our own databases, the UNGM, of course. And we publish around 650, actually today, at this day, there are about 650 EOI published on UNGM. So as soon as you have registered in UNGM, really look into those EOIs and see if you find what we are looking for, if you are providing what we are looking for. What are the different methods of solicitation? I mentioned those names before, but I'm going to go back into details on that. So one of them is called ITB, Invitation to Bid, and the other one is RFP, Request for Proposal. So ITB is for goods mainly and for simple services with very standard and clear specification, and for which we will be taking, we will be looking at the requirement, and all those that are compliant with the requirements that are mostly mandatory requirements, so it's like pass and fail evaluation, we will then take the lowest bid out of those compliant vendor proposals. For the request for proposal, it is where we are going to do this 60-40% scoring that I mentioned earlier. And we select this RFP when it is more difficult to quantitatively or qualitatively express our requirements. So basically, we ask you for an output and you can come with a solution. So it's not like really an off-the-shelf product. It's more like a customized service, that if I may say. There's also what we call a request for quotation, which is an informal way of doing solicitation, and it's for bids between $4,000 and $40,000 US. Again, the procurement solicitation process is gathered into what we call the source selection plan, which is our own internal document that gathers the strategy. So it includes the description of the requirement, which kind of method are we selecting for this bid, what are the sourcing methods that we used for this bid, what is the contractual instrument, what type of contract are we going to put in place, what is the evaluation team composed of? So we name the people that will be in charge for the commercial and the technical. What are the criteria? What are the minimum criteria? What is the weighting? So how do we do the evaluation? We can even mention something about the market condition or any planning or what is the schedule of the procurement that we foresee. The rating and the scoring, of course, of the evaluation will be mentioned there. The required level of expertise of the vendor will also be mentioned. What are the risks and any other information? So that relates to the bid. So basically, once we have put in place this document, it cannot be, and it's approved and signed, sorry, before the tender documents are issued. It cannot be changed unless we are facing a big problem during the solicitation, but it never can be changed after the solicitation is closed. So basically, this is the framework for this solicitation that is set prior to issuing the solicitation documents. We also mentioned to you that after we issue the solicitation, you have some actions to do, right? So one of them is return the acknowledgement letter saying if you want to participate in this bid. Note the limit, the time limit for the question and answer. So if you have any question to ask, you can do so through email. The only thing is there is a time limit, so be careful about that. There could be a bidders conference. There could be a site visit. So before you go into answering all of that, you should look at the scope of work. You should really make sure that you understand exactly what we need and that your company is able to do that. We also ask you to look into the evaluation criteria, and so you can see those pass and fail criteria I mentioned to you, if you think your company can meet them. So for example, you need to have a turnover, let's say, of $3 million per year, right? So if you know your turnover is not meeting that criteria and it's a pass and fail criteria, then you should just stop there, because you're going to waste your time, right? Because we will not be able to select you based on the fact that these criteria have been defined prior. There are sometimes requirements for bid bond. So bid bond is really a security that we will only cash if one vendor doesn't want to sign the contracts, or is coming with a modification of his submission during the evaluation. It's very rare, but still it can happen. Then we also mentioned in the solicitation that we will be asking for a performance bond, and that one will be issued only once the contract is signed. So don't worry about the performance bond prior. It will be we will reach out to you once the contract is finalized. And we also attach a draft form of contract that you need to look at. And we have attached to that also what we call the UN General Conditions of Contract. So all of that is part of the solicitation package. So how do we want you to answer? We want you to answer into 2 separate sealed envelopes, whether it is physical or electronic submission, it needs to be separate. So one should be mentioning technical proposal, the other one financial proposal. And you have the RFP number that is provided with the RFP. So you mention that one, you mention the name of your company, and you really make sure that there is no financial proposal information in the technical proposal. Why is this so? Because we are evaluating each of them separately and we don't want one to influence the other. So if we find out that there is a financial portion of your financial proposal, for example, in your technical proposal, then we may have to cancel, reject your proposal all the way. So make sure that you are doing this very precisely. Don't let, for example, if you're submitting a USB key, don't let an intern do that, because at the last minute, maybe that intern doesn't know how to do it. You really have to follow the process until the end, because this is a risk that we see sometimes, that bidders don't understand that. So I hope this is clear. Okay, so during the bid opening, we give you the information about who are the bidders that bid. So if you are able to come physically to the bid opening, it's a public bid opening that takes place at the UN, mostly in New York. If you are not able, you can send us a request and we will send you the list of the vendors. So that information is available also for electronic bids. So as I said, for ITBs, the award is recommended to the lowest. For RFP, we do the financial separately from the technical, and the award is given to the one that obtains the highest combined score of the technical and the financial evaluation. Once we have done this evaluation, we go to our internal process, what we call a headquarters committee on contract, which is an independent committee that makes sure that the whole process was done according to the guidelines. And then we award the contract once this committee has approved our recommendation. So basically, we go to this committee when the contract awards would exceed 1 million. We may ask you to, we may inform you that the award may be split. So for example, if we have different types of services within one RFP, we can split between those services. So we will be explaining to you in that case that we are going to evaluate each service separately, and then we will be awarding to the best value for money for each of these services separately. So then we will, once we have obtained the approval, we will be going to you and tell you that you are successful. Then we will enter into contract negotiation. Sometimes we don't, expect lengthy negotiations. So we will be signing the contract as soon as possible. Then we will be posting this contract on our UNPD website. And this is the website I was mentioning to you, where you can see who are our bidders, who are vendors, contractors right now. And then we will notify the unsuccessful bidders, and that will be when you can ask for the debrief. The award can be done only with vendors that have completed the registration process. So basically, in order to start with the EOI process and be able to see us, that we see you, in UNGM, you can start with basic level. But if we say this contract will require you to be registered at level 2, which is for a contract above 500,000, then that means that during the selection process, you will have to complete your registration to that level. We won't be able to place the contract to you if you have not been successful to register in that level. So the debriefs, as I said, is for high value above $200,000. It's an opportunity to get more information, to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. It's a learning opportunity, and it's also a way for us to exchange information. There are some more information on that on the Debrief and Procurement Challenges FAQ on our website. And if an unsuccessful bidder has a challenge, it wants to challenge because he doesn't feel like, you know, the debrief that was granted to him met what he put into his proposal. So basically, he's putting a challenge to the award. Then there's what we call an award review board that will look into those challenges. So, but basically what we do during the debrief is we make sure that the vendor understand why we have not been able to select them. And we are, you know, able to answer question and answer at this point. So it's very important. So the award review board still exists, so that there is a possibility for the vendor to, you know, put a challenge, and then we will be reviewing this with an independent committee. This is the end of my presentation, and I can answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. That was very, very enlightening. Thank you very, very much. We have questions rolling in, and we'll take them very, very quickly. The first question comes from Aisha. She says, you mentioned earlier that we can explore the option of being a subcontractor to major contractors for the region. Can we get a list of the current UN major contractor vendors on the UNGM site? That's
yeah, so UNGM will not give you these names, but it will be the UN Procurement Division, UNPD website. That's the address I showed in my presentation earlier, where you will be able to see the awards and the contractors that have been awarded. Unfortunately, our role dealing with business to business activity stops here. We cannot give you the names, you know, you cannot just call us and say, who is this vendor, blah, blah, blah. The information is posted on our website, and this is up to you to do your research. But if you have any questions, we are always here to help.
Okay. A lot of people are asking for the slides and for the recordings. That the slides will be provided. Also from Aisha, for consultancy services, do I have a better chance of scaling through as an independent consultant or as a company?
Okay, so there are two different requirements. So let's say, for example, the Office of the Human Resources in New York, they are looking for a company to distribute consultancy services across different locations, they will look for a company because the size of the requirement is large and the footprint that needs to be addressed is also very large. So they will look for teams of people to be able to deploy them. But if they are looking for a very small requirement that requires a 1 person, 3 months type of work, then they will ask for what they call individual contractor, IC type of contract, and that will be really a one-to-one with the person itself. So it will not go through procurement. It will be hiring a staff on a temporary basis. That's a very different aspect. So on this, it's the Office of Human Resources that will gather the information about the requirement, post their own requirement online, and you will be able to submit a proposal, but that will be only for individual staff, not companies. Companies will go through Procurement Division.
Okay. Thank you very much for that answer. The next question is from Patronella Dietrich. The previous speaker made mention, of payment always being within 30 days from completion. Do you provide mobilization or cash flow funding for some projects, or are your terms hard?
Okay, so if we need mobilization work, like for example, when we install fuel in a location, we need a land infrastructure, we need tanks to be placed before the services can come up, then we will have a part of the, we will have lots in the contract, right? So the first lot would be mobilization. Now, we don't pay in advance, okay? So even if that portion has to require you to invest money before you are paid, that's the way it is. So we will pay the mobilization once it's there, once we can accept the services, once everything has been provided. But we are trying to cut into pieces. If you are providing a service that is on a monthly basis, of course we will pay you on a monthly basis. So if you have, for example, people that are here to provide services, you will be able to invoice on a monthly basis. But we always pay after the fact, okay? There's no advance payment in the UN, except for industry standard, you know, like for example, subscriptions of software. You cannot get the software before you are paid. These are the things that that can happen, but that's very rare.
Okay, thank you very much, Isabelle. The next question comes from. Okay, well, it's a question about recording. That will be the information will be provided from Sinelala Movundelela. I'm sorry about that. Is the primary bid response through physical or online submission?
So we used to do physical submission with, you know, you being having to take into account the postal administration delays or the FedEx delays, and basically we need to receive the proposals in time and in New York City. So that was before COVID, okay? Now that we are in this COVID situation, we allow for electronic bids. So we give you one email, which is pdbidsubmission@un.org. It's everywhere in the submission documents in the package. You will see it, and then you are able to send it via electronic version. Now we have some limitations. I think it's between 7 or 10 megabytes by email. So if your submission is larger than that, you have to, you know, cut it into pieces. And don't forget that you also have to make separate submissions for the technical and for the financial proposal.
To add to that, if I may, make sure when you send a physical, when the COVID is over, please include the attention of a tender opening committee. That's important. You don't put the name of the procurement officer, because if you put the procurement name officer, it's going to go straight to that person. And the person will see the documents prior to tender opening and may disqualify you. So please make sure you put attention of tender opening committee, and also put like RFP number on top of it. And also make sure 2 separate envelopes, one for technical, one for commercial, please.
On the solicitation package, there's a page where we explain to you exactly how it should look like. So I don't think it's too complicated.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting question here from Jane Munene. It's like small vendors have no chance. Please clarify the volumes of business you handle in terms of money, and probably in terms of US dollars, I'm very sure. So,
okay, so I mentioned to you that the annual volume of the procurement division is 3 billion. Of course, it looks super large, and but most of the tenders are for a small amount. So let's say, for example, a local mission in, let's take Mali, for example, is looking for printing services. Their printing services could be $100,000 a year, right? So it's a very different type of service, and therefore you need to look into those EOIs and select those that you think your company can absorb. But there is a place for small companies in our business.
okay, thank you very much, Isabelle. So, Jane, you've heard that there's a place for small business and small vendors in UN procurement. From Patronella Diedrix, how different is a process between the main UN agencies and the regional ones in each country? Or do you centralize all contracts or bids? That's from Petronella Diedrix.
That's a very interesting question. So basically, I can talk about the UN Secretariat because that's what we are dealing with. We used to have a very centralized approach, but now, with the accountability framework, we've decided that the missions can also take their part and look into local vendors for the non-strategic items. So the strategic items, there's a list that is very restrictive and that are probably for, the large contracts, like, for example, fuel, the turnkey contracts for fuel. But for example, for fuel, the mission is allowed to bid for the into-vehicle gas station, for example. So they can have contracts with the next door gas station. That's fine, as long as they can go outside of the compound to receive the fuel, and there's this commercial market out there. So it really depends on the commodity. For the UN agencies and foods and funds and programs, what I would say is that the principles are mostly the same. It doesn't change much. It's just that sometimes the level are different. For example, we do RFQ until 40,000. In some agencies, RFQ can go for 100,000. It's minor, really. It's not like a big difference. So once you have understood how to do business with one agency, you're probably good to go for the others as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Isabelle. The next question comes from, well, this is this is kind of like it's a question, but it's a slight complaint, and it's from Carol Umbutura. Now, Carol says, I once bidded for stationery supplies, and we were asked to provide samples for evaluation. Some of the samples were very expensive, and I was told they would be returned if I did not win the bid. She says they were not returned, and she felt bad. Who should we turn to in such situations when we need to make a complaint?
Of course. So complaints are, you know, we understand fully that sometimes you have to provide those samples and they cost money. So normally there is, in addition to the bid opening email, there is an email where it mentions the name of the procurement officer. So in that case, I think you should have contacted that procurement officer, and if we had said in the solicitation document that we returned the samples, we should have returned them. So I feel sorry for you, Carol.
Okay. Well, we have two. What's good news from two ladies? From Jane Munene. Hi, and thanks for this webinar. I'm trying to register my company, but almost to the end, the system gets very slow. Then she comes back and says, wow, it has registered finally. Also, we have a very good message from Deborah in Uganda. Hello, Deborah. I am a small vendor and I have managed to do business with the United Nations missions here in Uganda. So there is business for small vendors. So that's just a confirmation of what Mika and Isabelle have been saying. The next question is from Caroline, and she asks, I'm Caroline, the CEO of Eldo Tea from Kenya. Can you bid for tenders outside your country? Sorry, I missed the first part due to internet issues. I think Patricia has already answered this. You answered that you can bid in your country or you can bid outside your country if you have the capacity. So I guess that's already answered.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you were saying?
No, I was just saying that if there are any, you know, Incoterms associated with the delivery of the goods, for example, that you have to make the custom clearance yourself, you have to deliver to a certain delivery point, you have to really follow the instructions and take this cost into account in your bid.
Okay, thank you very much. A few more questions very quickly. I'd like to also remind us all to look at the link on the chat section where we can provide feedback on this webinar to the United Nations that has graciously collaborated with us to host this webinar. So remember to check that link. From Joy Kiula, do you have a supplier diversity program to train and mentor women-owned businesses / SMEs who want to do business with the United Nations to handhold them through the process so it doesn't appear too complex for them to bid?
Well, I think this business seminar is one of the initiatives that we are trying to put together, but maybe Patricia, you want to answer also about WEConnect, because WEConnect also have a mission, right, to explain the UN procurement to the bidders. Or Michael, maybe you want to mention this?
So WEConnect International does have a series of capacity building or training opportunities. It usually varies country by country. Up until now, they've been primarily in increasingly we're moving online. And I recommend that you all look at the website WeConnectInternational.org to find our training opportunities under WeConnect Academy. We also have an events calendar. We are a member organization made up of the largest companies and international organizations in the world that want to buy more from women. And we really value the 2 hours that Mika and Isabelle have dedicated to educating you about the procurement process at the United Nations. We do have other international corporations who are members who do the same thing through Meet the Member events. The best way that you can participate in this supplier development opportunities is by joining WeCommunity. This is our database of more than 10,000 women-owned businesses around the world. You have to be at least 51% owned by women in order to register in this database, and then you'll get more information about events like this. So yes, we are dedicated to supplier development at WEConnect International, but it depends on all of you to actually register on our database. And then you can be invited to more events like this. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Patricia. So we just a few more questions. Are all tenders studied and decided on only at the UN HQ, or do specific agencies at regional and national levels soliciting at national levels evaluate the tenders and thereby choose vendors?
Yes, we do both. As I told you, we tend to, in HQ in New York, keep only the strategic high value contracts, and then the local missions and the local offices can have their own delegation for placing contracts as well. Now, this is only for the UN Secretariat, so aviation agencies, funds and programs, they also have their own delegation mechanism. So you will have to look into their webpage for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, the first question there is from Philia Malo. To guard against scams, which URL or email addresses do invitations to tender and RFPs or RFQs normally proceed from the United Nations besides the UNGM website? I guess that will be provided. Watch out for the slides that will come immediately after the this webinar, and you'll get that. The last question I have here is also from Patronella Dietrich, and it says, do the missions have restrictions on who can apply for tenders? Is preference or any weighing given to local suppliers? So is there any preference for local content based on the country where the particular agency mission is?
Yeah, so as we said, there is absolutely fairness to everyone. So we really want a true international competition to happen. So we don't give incentives to local vendors, but on the cost side, as I said, as I explained earlier, if a company that is outside the country has to pay for the custom clearance or you know, any other cost that is related to the fact that they're not in the country, then the vendors inside the country will de facto have a financial cost that will be lower than the ones from outside. So all in all, we can say that we have international competition, but local vendors can have can provide a very interesting quotation that will then be selected depending on the method of solicitation.
Yeah, sure. Can I jump in? Can I jump in with one comment that Ibiola Amau from Lonadec Global Services mentioned? She said, I hope WEConnect members would collaborate to bid for UN opportunities.
Oh.
This would be a great test for collaboration and cooperation among women-owned companies.
Yes, yes. And I think taking that from there, while we were speaking, I had a sudden idea for a specialized webinar, which we'll call Collaborate, just for women-owned businesses targeting bidding on the UNGM. And we'd love to have Mika and Isabelle on that. And the concept would be lots of breakout rooms where these women-owned businesses that operate in the same sector can talk and plan how they might be able to collaborate towards winning contracts from the United Nations. Isabelle, Mika, can we hope that
we can talk about that, definitely. And we can maybe have
sure.
you know, the specialists there to help you out, depending on the community. Right, Mika?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds like there's enthusiasm for that in the chat room too. So that would be great. We'd love to see you back here. Yeah, sure. I think we're a little past time, so maybe we should close things out. I'm going to show my screen And this is the way that you can be in touch with us at WEConnect International. On my part, I'm at headquarters here in Washington, D.C. I want to thank you so much. Yeshua, I'm going to pass it over to you to close out. I don't know if Mika and Isabelle have anything they'd like to say in conclusion.
Thank you, everybody. And I think I'd like to give honor to whom honor is due. I'll let Isabelle and Mika close us out.
Well, thank you so much for this invitation. And please let us know if you have any questions. Looking forward to speaking to you again.
Yes, thank you very much for attending this business seminar, and we're looking forward doing business with you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Yeshua.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Isabelle.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
And thank you from Nigeria.
Thank you, Nigeria. You are here in force.
Yeah, thank you very much for the webinar. It was exciting. Thanks for letting us in. From Nigeria, that's Aisha.
Thank you for Togo, from Togo.
Oh,
thank you from Lagos.
Thank
you from Nairobi.
Thank you, Yeshua.
Thank you from Nigeria.
Thank you from Lagos.
Thank you. Thank you from Port Harcourt.
Hello, thank you from Abuja.
From Lagos.
Thank you from Ghana.
Ghana's here.
Thank
Ghana
you.
is here.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
From
South Africa's
Uganda.
here.
Bye.
Thank you from Abuja. Thank you from Abuja. Oh, thank you.
Okay. What did you say?
Ko mai sanyi ma, ki sai mai sanyi kawai. A kan ci Abdulaziz.
Only Guinea.
No, nǹkan tó ń fi ránṣẹ́ mistake. After positioning the sheet. So our punch printed one, and the company some few sheets. Our punch, so our position that so we paper, so that they will do another.
How many minutes? No matter what.
Well done, Yeshua. And thank you. Yeah, that's exciting.
Very much. Thank you very
It was
much.
an exciting webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you from Yola. Very far.
Wow, from Yola.
Yes, Adamawa State.
Wow.
The women,
Thank
yes,
you very much
one of the only women printer. Our printing press. I run a printing press, and the only one facing the male-dominating businesses. No? I was once the IVRP for last year March.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I was
fantastic.
a participant. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
I'm not finding. Thank you.
Thank you for joining this call. And we'll try to ensure we have more programs like this that will reach out to Yola. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you
very much.
Bye. So can we step down now?
Yes, we can. We can. You can
You
step
take
down
care.
now. Thank you very
Take
much.
care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining.
You're welcome. Although I joined late, my name is Princess Layo Kewu. I manufacture envelopes in Nigeria.
Okay. Okay. Even though you joined late, we'll be sending you the slides so you can catch up on your own.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining.
Okay.
Have a fantastic
Thank
day.
you. Welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I hope
Bye-bye.
we'll be having things like this in future.
Very, very regularly. Very, very regularly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay then. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was an exciting webinar. We learned a lot. My name is Jacqueline from Ghana. I run an HR consultancy firm in Ghana.
Wow. Thank you very much for joining.
My pleasure.
I hope it was useful and interesting to you.
It was very impactful, and actually it was so impactful. We learned a lot. I hope we'll be having more sessions as day goes by. And
yes,
then,
we will.
Yes, I was particularly interested in the collaboration. I think it's such a fantastic idea, and we look forward to it.
Okay, we will keep you informed. We will send you the slides and other information. And as soon as we're able to come up with a timing, hopefully in the next, within the quarter, we'll let you know about the collaboration webinar, where we think it will be a good idea for women-owned businesses, especially Nigeria, Ghana, the African sub-Saharan region, can come together and go collaborate and go after projects go after contracts at the UN.
Fantastic.
We'll keep you informed. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. We're grateful you could come.
Thank you too, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
We're solidly behind you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Same to you. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Create your design along the Builder catalog. You can also create custom page layouts, for example, adding a cover page. You can also add text and images to any page. Every element can be edited.